We are one of the oldest lodges in the country, oldest that we know of west of the Alleghenies in Pennsylvania.
Hello, my name is Dirk Hughes, Director of the Michigan Masonic Museum and Library. Today's Lodge Showcase is on Zion No. 1 in Detroit, the oldest known Masonic Lodge in the state of Michigan. We recently had a chance to talk with Brother Rob Moore, Zion's current Senior Deacon and Lodge Education Officer. He is also the official docent for the Detroit Masonic Temple, the world's largest Masonic building, which has been the meeting place for Zion No. 1 and many other Detroit area lodges since its dedication in 1926. Join us now as Brother Rob Moore gives us an historical tour of this landmark Michigan lodge, Zion No. 1.
Back in September 1760, British took control of what was then known as Fort Detroit from the French following the French and Indian War. And what had happened was at that time, most of the military occupation units were members of the 60th Regiment of Foot or the Royal American Regiment, and the majority of them were Masons, but Detroit was a relatively remote outpost at that time. They really didn't have the option of going back to Montreal or somewhat like that to go to lodge. So what they did is they petitioned the Provincial Grand Lodge of New York to start a lodge. It was around for a few years. Most of the members of that regiment were sent off to other posts throughout the British Empire, mostly in the Caribbean, and the lodge went dormant for a little while, and then it was restarted again in 1794, this time under the Grand Lodge of Canada. And we still have a copy of the original charter from that time. And Zion was, it wasn't just Michigan, it was also most of Ontario that it was also its jurisdiction as well. Over the years, obviously, the United States of America was now a country at this point, and also they were having some difficulties with communications with the Grand Lodge of Canada, so they decided in 1803 to petition the Grand Lodge of New York now for a charter, and that happened in 1806. And then something else happened, was the War of 1812. Now, the Detroit area itself was a pretty big battleground for that war. So, in fact, there's a recording in our minutes that the American flag was lowered and the British flag was raised in Lodge after the British took control of Detroit at that time. So the Lodge went dormant for a little while again, and then finally in 1816 it started up again after being dormant for a period, and then again in 1829 during the Morgan Affair, during the anti-Masonic excitement throughout the country. Then Grandmaster Lewis Cass made the decision to shut down basically the very young Grand Lodge of Michigan at that time. So it wasn't again until 1845 with the formation of the Second Grand Lodge of Michigan that Zion Lodge once again started meeting again. Detroit back in the 1810s was somewhat of a frontier metropolis, so to speak. If you look at a street map of Detroit, it's almost pretty much like a who's who of who was members of Zion Lodge back during the formative years of Detroit history. It was widely believed and held that they needed to have like a university in Detroit. That's something that the city lacked at the time. So what happened is that Augustus Woodward, along with Father Gabriel Richard, approached Zion Lodge No. 1 for financial backing to start this university. So in September of 1817, Zion Lodge at a meeting voted to start the initial funding for the University of Michigan. And unfortunately, the fire of Detroit that back in the early 1800s destroyed a lot of our earlier archives, unfortunately, but we still do have a few things. We have an original Bible from 1799. We have a minute books going back to 1845, which we still use in Lodge today. So when you become a Master Mason in the Lodge, you're signing the same book that they signed back in 1845. We've also had several anniversaries over the years. Obviously, our most recent one was our 250th celebration back in 2014. Obviously, with a lodge as old as we are, we like to celebrate our anniversary whenever we have the opportunity. Over the 252 years we've been in existence, we started originally as a small British military lodge, and over the years have become what we are today.
We hope you enjoyed this showcase of Michigan's oldest Masonic Lodge. If you want to learn more about Zion Number 1, or are interested in taking a tour of its home, the Detroit Masonic Temple, call the number you see on the screen. I'm Dirk Hughes with the Michigan Masonic Museum and Library. Until next time.